to my channel. My name's Annabelle and today I'm going to be filming my top 10 favorite books of all time. I'm super excited for this video. It's going to be so much fun. So let's get on it. Okay, so first book on my list of my top 10 favorite books, I think I'm going to start off with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This book is my favorite book in the series. I absolutely adore Harry Potter, but Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is my absolute favorite. I love this book so much. It is so autumnal and cozy, and I love it. I love that Sirius Black and Professor Lupin are so involved in this book. Those two characters are my two favorite Harry Potter characters of all time. I love them so much, and I love this book. It is so special to me, and I'm so excited to go to the Wizarding World and see Hagrid's pumpkins. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. But yeah, so first out of my top 10 is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Ooh, this is hard. So I think 10 is going to be like my favorite book of all time. Like, these are my favorite books, but 10 is like up there in my favorite books. So I would say number 2 is Born at Midnight by C.C. Hunter. Born at Midnight is such a special book to me. I spent like my middle school through I think it was it just middle school? Maybe early high school as well, reading this series with my grandmother. So I would read a book, I'd finish it, and then give it to her, and then I would move on to the next one. And when she finished that book, we would like get together and we discuss it and talk about it over coffee before I went to school in the morning. And it's just some of my most treasured memories, and this book series will forever have such a special place in my heart. It reminds me so much of her, and I love this book series. It is so fun. And yeah, so maybe I'll let you guys know a bit about Shadow Falls. If you've never heard of it, it's basically a book about a series about a girl who goes to this like supernatural boarding school / summer school, and there are all different types of supernatural creatures. So there's fairies, yeah, I think there's fairies, witches, vampires, shapeshifters, and then there's the main character, Kylie, who can see ghosts, but she's like not really sure what she is. She doesn't fall into any of the categories besides the fact that she can see ghosts. So you're like taken on this journey with her, trying to figure out like what she is and where she belongs in this world of supernatural species. And it's such a fun book. I absolutely adore this series, and if you haven't read it, you should definitely give it a try. Okay, next up we have The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. So this book is so good. It's such a fun summer read. It definitely gives me Deep, Dark, and Dangerous vibes, which is like one of my favorite childhood books about ghosts. And that's like one of the reasons why I love this book so much. It is super, like, it's not that creepy, but it has like a creepy summer vibe to it. I'll read a snippet of the back so you guys know what it's about. Welcome to the cursed town of Sparrow. 2 centuries ago, 3 sisters were sentenced to death for witchery. Stones were tied to their ankles, and they were drowned in the deep waters surrounding the town. Now, for a brief time each summer, the sisters return, stealing the bodies of 3 troubled girls so they may seek their revenge, luring boys into Sparrow's harbor and pulling them under. So it's like a ghost story of these 3 girls who were murdered in the town, and they come back for revenge each summer, and it's just such an interesting book. Super fun to read in the summer. Highly suggest. I absolutely love this book. Okay, next, let's see. Ooh, this is hard. Okay, next I'm gonna have to say House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. I actually just read this book not too long ago, and it was so good. The writing in this book is so enchanting and eerie, and it's such a work of art. Like, the book itself literally has you like hanging on to every last word because you just need to know what's going to happen next. I was so drawn in by these sisters' stories, and I could not put this book down. It was super interesting, also very creepy. yeah, it was definitely like a creepier book, and it touched on some pretty dark and heavy topics. So it's not for the faint of heart, but it was a really, really good book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can read a snippet of the inside as well. Iris Hollow and her two older sisters are unquestionably strange. As children, they disappeared on a Scottish city street, only to return a month later with no memory of what happened. More troubling, their appearance began to change. Their blue eyes now black, their dark hair now white, and as they grew older, odd, eerie occurrences seemed to follow in their wake. People find them disturbingly intoxicating, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicably dangerous. Super good, super interesting. It's very fairy tale and whimsy, but very dark. It's a very interesting read. Highly suggest. Okay, we're getting to the good stuff. Next, I'm gonna have to say From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. This book took me by surprise. I was shook when I read this book because I did not think I was going to love it as much as I did. I absolutely adore Poppy and Hawk. Their story is so good. Poppy is such an amazing character. I love her. And when I read this book, I was like, I'm rating this book like equally as good as The Court of Thorns and Roses, which is like something I do not do very often. So my like dial of rating, if a book is as good as A Court of Thorns and Roses, it's like an absolute 5-star. One of my favorite books, because A Court of Thorns and Roses has my heart, and is my favorite book, and I think it was so well done, that whole series. So this book is up there with A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's very, very good. The story is different. I was very surprised by it, and I like was so sucked in. I just could not get my head over like what the heck was happening. I needed to know more, but like the steaminess in this book between Poppy and Hawk, and just how like badass Poppy is, and just the world building, and how like she pulls you in and you just need to know more about this world because it's so secretive almost, and like you're following through Poppy, so Poppy's like unraveling this world around her and like all these lies, and it's just super, super good, super interesting, and it's one of my favorite books. Next, we have a book that I have no idea how I did not read this book sooner. This book literally speaks to my soul. It will always, always, always be one of my favorite books of all time. It is a true work of art, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Oh my gosh, this book is just like art in a book. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Some of my favorite quotes of all time are from this book. I love this book so much. When I read it, I was lost for words. I was like, how the heck did I not read this book sooner? This book is perfect. I love this book so much. I'll read a snippet of the back. A life no one will remember, a story you will never forget. It's so true, a story you will most definitely never forget, because the story of Addie LaRue is life-changing. Another favorite quote of mine from the inside of this book is, never pray to the gods that answer after dark. Ugh, it gives me chills. This book is so good and it's so interesting. It makes you just like want to get up and travel the world, but it also is like it's enchanting, but it's sad, but it's not sad. It's a very, very good book, and I absolutely adore it, and I highly suggest you read it. Next, okay. Oh my goodness. So we're getting to my last 4 top favorite books of all time, and those would be my Sarah J Maas books. So I think we're going to start with Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. It is no secret, Sarah J Maas is my favorite author. I adore her. I adore her writing, and I think her books are magic. They're just true magic. So starting off with Kingdom of Ash, the whole Throne of Glass series is one of my favorite book series in the world. It is probably my second book series ever. I absolutely love it. When I read it, it took me on a journey. Like, the first couple books are just like, they're good. They're like, well, they're very good. But then, like, you get to the 3rd book and your world is turned upside down. And you're like, wait, what the heck is happening here? And it just gets so, so, so good. I am so attached to all of the characters in Throne of Glass. All of them. And I feel like I should just do a whole video talking about Throne of Glass series and maybe rating the books, because I read the books when I didn't have a bookstagram or didn't really watch too much like booktube or anything, so I never really got to like rant to anybody about these books, and I would love to do that. So I might do that in the future. But Kingdom of Ash is my favorite out of the series, I think. Mainly because it is just so touching. I cried more than I've ever cried reading a book before reading this book. I also threw this book across the room more times than I can. It was an emotional roller coaster reading this book and finishing this series. I am in denial that Throne of Glass is over. I like still have my fingers crossed that like maybe Sarah will just like throw out a novella one day about like Lorcan and Elaide. That would be a dream come true. I mean, maybe. That would be fantastic. So yeah, Kingdom of Ash, one of my favorite books of all time. So good. Okay, now we're getting into A Court of Thorns and Roses. I can't choose which one's my absolute favorite. Okay, so next up is A Court of Mist and Fury. This book is so good. I'm gonna say so good so many times, but this book is amazing. If you can't tell, I have tabbed like nearly every page in this book, and I've reread the series of A Court of Thorns and Roses minus A Court of Silver Flames like 4 or 5 times. It's sickening, but it's okay because it's my favorite series ever and I absolutely adore it. Also, can we take a minute to just admire these book sleeves, like, or what are they, dust covers? They're beautiful. My mom got them for me for my birthday this past April, and I have never loved a bookish item more. They are absolutely stunning and I love them. Yeah, A Court of Mist and Fury is one of my favorite books. I could reread it over and over and over again. I love Rhysand, I love Feyre, I love the Inner Circle, I love them all. And just this book is like so special because it's Feyre like getting to know the Inner Circle and like finding her home in the Night Court and just like finding her love with like for Rhysand. I mean, we all know their love was always there, but the part when she snags the sorrel. This is a spoiler, by the way. If you have not read the book, do not listen to what I'm saying. But the part when she snags or snares the sorrel and he's like, your mates, and she's like has to save Rhysand, but she's all mad at him, and they like window back to the cabin. Yeah, I think it was the cabin, or no, it was the Illyrian war camp, and she leaves Rhysand there in the mud, and he's like, no, Feyre, wait, and she's so mad, and that scene just is so good, and it's so sad, and it's just, it makes me cry when I read it. And then when she goes to the cabin, and she paints, and the soup, I could just go on a tangent about this, I really don't need to, but needless to say, this is one of my favorite books. Oh my gosh, I can't choose. I literally cannot choose between these two, so I'm gonna say these two are a tie to my ultimate favorite book of all time, and that would be A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, obviously, and A Court of Silver Flames. Both of these books mean everything to me. They each hold such a special place in my heart. A Court of Thorns and Roses being because it was my first Sarah J Maas book I ever read. I remember it very vividly going to Barnes & Noble's and finding this book. I was with my mom and I found it, and it was on like the YA table for like new releases, and it was in hardcover, and it was like the original copy with the red background and Feyre on it. At first I really thought it was Amaranth on it though, but I assume it's Feyre. But anyways, I remember seeing it and I picked it up and I looked at the map and I was just like reading the background. I was like, oh my gosh, this book's about fairies and about a mortal girl, and it has a Beauty and the Beast twist. This sounds so good, and I was so excited. And my mom was like, oh, are you sure you're gonna like it, because you know you only read like ghost and vampire books? And I was like, no Mom, I'm gonna like this. She's like, well, are you sure, because it's in hardcover? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love this book. So needless to say, I got it and I fell in love. I had reread A Court of Thorns and Roses so many times, and I love this book so much. I absolutely adore A Court of Thorns and Roses. My favorite part in this book is when Feyre is like about to be attacked by those creepy fae on Calamari. Calamare. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But when Rhysand shows up and he saves her and he's like, there you are. I've been looking for you. Oh, that part like literally brings me to tears. I need to reread this book. I should just reread it. I don't need to reread it, but I should. Lastly, my favorite book of all time, alongside A Court of Thorns and Roses, is A Court of Silver Flames. Oh, I just want to hug this book. I love this book. I absolutely love Nesta. She is my soul character. I think I relate myself to her so much more than any other character. I love her, and I love that she put her like journey to better herself and to get over all these mental hoops and challenges, and she just really like, she came through. She really did, and I'm so proud of her, and I love her, and I love Emery and Gwen, and this is one of my favorite books ever. I love this book so much, and it means so much to me, and I just want to live in the House of Wind and be best friends with Nesta and Gwen and Emery, and that's all I want from life. But since I can't have that, I'm just gonna have to reread this book and live it again. But yeah, so that's the end of this probably very long video, but these are my favorite books of all time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to filming my next video. I hope everyone has a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time.